The 49-year-old drug baron Edgar Valdez Villarreal, famously known as La Barbie, has disappeared from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. La Barbie originally received 49 years and 1 month sentence in June of 2018 and was fined with a total of $192,000. At the time of his conviction, Edgar Valdez was 44 years of age, and combining this with his sentence meant that he would most likely be locked behind bars for the rest of his life. And if he did survive those years behind bars, then he would serve another 10 years on probation. How La Barbie, a man who had climbed the reins of Mexico's most ruthless cartels, was able to slip away from the clutches of the U.S. authority. Did he escape, or did he come to some sort of deal with the U.S. authorities? Edgar was your average American Joe, who was raised in Texas state and to date remains the only American who has ever pulled off something of this magnitude within the Mexican cartel drug scene. He had evaded the U.S. authorities so much that a $2 million bounty was placed on his head. But this too didn't prove to be very effective. Barbie grew up across the Mexican border in Laredo City. Edgar's younger days were filled with him making trips to Nuevo Laredo, Laredo's sister city in Mexico. In contrast with what was on the other side, this border city was like a breath of fresh air. He could do a variety of things, from strolling through the markets to enjoying a meal known by the locals as taco de caballo. Despite all this, Nuevo Laredo was the most important trade border crossing in North America. Perhaps this was one of the reasons Edgar loved the town so much. In his high school days, he was among the popular mix, goofing around, skipping classes, and spending his weekends with Virginia Perez, his high school sweetheart, who he will later go on to marry. In high school, Edgar was a well-known player on his school's football team. Edgar got the nickname La Barbie from his high school coach. The nickname given to him at first was Ken Doll, Barbie doll's boyfriend. The reason being his blue eyes, olive skin, and blonde hair which resembled that of a porcelain doll, which his girlfriend and later wife, Virginia Perez, also shared. The nickname then evolved to La Barbie. His former teammates recalled Edgar being a funny and humorous character to be around. He was always seen having a good laugh or two, but in the events that followed 2 months before graduation, his teammates thought this would change. This was because Edgar had been involved in an accident where he ran into another car. The driver of the other vehicle, who happened to be a guidance counselor for a middle school in the area, had died instantly. To the surprise of his teammates, this event didn't shake him at all. He went straight back to football practice and seemed unfazed, like the same person he was before the accident, a friend of his from back then recalled. After Barbie graduated from high school, his dad wanted him to attend college, to which Barbie blatantly disagreed. Rather than pursue a college degree, Edgar took a rather shocking career twist, one that was far from what his parents had in mind for him. Edgar was soon spotted in Sombrero's bar, one night by his former high school friends. These friends had most likely gone off to college, so spotting their friend who had seemed to disappear after high school at a Nuevo Laredo's bar was surprising. What was even more surprising was that Barbie had not acknowledged them the entire evening but had ordered alcohol to the table where they sat. When they prepared to leave, they ran into Barbie in the parking lot. He just said hi to his longtime friends, hopped in his black Jeep Cherokee, and left. The one thing his friends had noticed about the car was that it had windows that were bulletproof for some reason. They thought this was weird, but attributed it to the fact that Barbie was wealthy now. Fast forward to age 20 and Barbie was already neck-deep in the drugs and cartels lifestyle. Laredo, which was one of the largest commercial districts, was one of his many outlets. He knew that if he was able to smuggle cocaine across the border, the prices would skyrocket on the other side. Like every business enterprise, he started small, only smuggling as much as a pocket's worth. But when he did the math and figured out how much more he could be making, he decided to up his game. He roped another friend of his in, and together they smuggled approximately 150 pounds of cocaine every time they crossed the border. Around Barbie's 21st birthday, his family's fortune turned around drastically as his sister won a sum of $1 million at a lottery. With sudden cash, Barbie's family planned to move to the plush side of town. During this period, Barbie married Virginia Perez, but despite all these factors, he still didn't leave the drug trading scene. He was said to have a tremendous sixth sense. He knew how to spot a good deal and how to back up from one. This sixth sense became more prominent when he cut off a deal with the sheriff, Martin Cuellar. Martin Cuellar had disguised himself as a buyer of 300 pounds of marijuana and met Barbie in the restaurant, when suddenly La Barbie ended the transaction midway and stopped picking up his calls. He had somehow known that the deal wasn't going to go through and had ended it quickly. Even people close to Barbie were busted, but he always seemed to evade prison. At one point, one of Barbie's dealers was caught by the police, and when the backyard of this dealer was dug up, corpses of a Texan couple who had earlier gone missing were found. In 1998, we could say that Barbie's luck had diminished, and the police force was able to plant an informant in Barbie's base. It was then that his crew alongside him were caught and charged with shipping at least 130 pounds of marijuana to St. Louis and 700 pounds to San Antonio. Terrified and on the run, he did whatever he could to save himself, so he fled to Mexico. A normal person would have quit and chosen another path in life, but not Barbie. All the events that had occurred had paved his ascension to the top of the Mexican drug cartel game. He returned to Nuevo Laredo as a young drug dealer. This was the perfect spot to hide out. Barbie decided to fly solo and became one of the independent dealers under Dionisio Garcia. Garcia sold coke to Barbie and other independent dealers, but at the expense of a peso, which translates to tax in English. The tax was about $60,000 monthly, which seemed like a steep fee, but was required to satisfy border agents who decided to turn a blind eye to these drug activities. At the start of his drug career, he enjoyed working solo, and after almost a decade of this, he had understood how to collect important intel from vendors on the streets, taxi drivers, and waiters. A lot of things about Barbie were odd. He didn't act like other drug dealers, nor did he dress flashy or extravagant like most. He drove a Nissan Sentra or Chevy Malibu. His closest associates also conducted themselves in the same fashion. LaBarbie told his comrades that they have to be clean, polite, sober, and never raise a hand against children or women. However, all this was just the calm before the storm. In the years that followed, the larger cartels started an all-out war for control over regions, and the district of Nuevo Laredo played too much of a significant role to be let autonomous. In 2002, Los Zetas started moving into Nuevo Laredo in alliance with the Gulf Cartel. Friend Killer, also known as OCL Cardenas Guillen, ran the Gulf Cartel. The Friend Killer ordered the murder of Garcia, who was killed and left dead in his underwear. OCL then took over the turf and demanded that cocaine be bought from him and tax be given to him. The next cycle of violent events was started by Barbie's refusal to pay taxes to the Gulf Cartel. In less than a year of OCL's takeover, he ran into the clutches of the law and couldn't escape. With him out of the picture, Barbie saw this as the perfect opportunity to stage a revolt, as he no longer paid the tax. The alliance formed earlier by the Zetas and Gulf Cartel wasted no time in putting a bounty on Barbie's head, and Barbie had no other choice than to seek protection from their foe, the Beltran Leyva cartel. Beltran Leyva planned to join hands with El Chapo, a drug lord who was of the same caliber as Pablo Escobar. El Chapo had escaped maximum security prison at least twice, but during this period, he still ran the Sinaloa cartel. Barbie quickly joined forces with the Beltran Leyva to attack the Zetas. In 2005, over 150 murders were committed, and a good number of them were linked to the ongoing rivalry. Nuevo Laredo was not a highly populated town, only with a population of 350,000, so this blow was felt. In the end, Barbie was unable to beat them, as Zetas proved to be a powerful nemesis. Aside from this, things in Barbie's life weren't looking up, as he had ended things with his high school sweetheart, Virginia, and sent his sons home to be looked after by his mom. Virginia's mom was also arrested for drug dealing during this period. Despite all this and losing Laredo, Barbie had at least gained a powerful ally. The man was Arturo Beltran Leyva, or better known as Boss of the Bosses. He trusted LaBarbie more than his own brothers, so Barbie was given a job to lead Los Negros, which was the BLO's armed wing. Barbie moved to Acapulco, where life became relatively easy for him. Acapulco was ran by the BLO, and Barbie had time to chill and relax there. He played video games all day long and enjoyed the weather and beaches. In the months that followed, Barbie proved to be a cynical killer. A tape was recorded and sent to the media where Barbie tortured a Zeta hitman who was sent to assassinate him. When Barbie turned 33, he decided he no longer wanted to be called LaBarbie, but to be referred to as La Senor. But finally, when Barbie was cornered, he cut ties with the Beltrans, after he'd refused to help Arturo, who was killed because of this. So most probably, LaBarbie snitched on his own boss. The BLO and Zetas had joined forces, so it looked like Barbie was running out of options. He was later betrayed by two of his men who were caught by the police. They divulged his location near Mexico City, and the police promptly arrived at his uber big ranch and caught Barbie while he was trying to flee through a side door. The police showcased him around like a shiny trophy so the media could get all the pictures they wanted. Mexican President Calderon was revealed to have finally crossed off Barbie's name from the list of the top 37 drug lords in his country. At first, Barbie was held in a temporary cell where only his lawyer was allowed to see him. But then he was moved to one of the most violent prisons in Mexico. He was kept in solitary confinement and was not allowed any contact with the outside world or other prisoners. A CCTV camera was installed in his cell as well. Just before his capture, Barbie received news that his wife, Priscilla, who he had married a while back, had given birth to a girl who was born in a hospital in Laredo and was by default a citizen of the US. It seemed shocking to people that a criminal of this caliber who had been apprehended in Mexico and extradited to the United States had been able to slip away. with the Federal Bureau of Prisons refusing to divulge any further information. All we know is that Barbie's name no longer appears on the prison's list of inmates, so most probably he got out and is in the witness protection program, because he had some juicy information about drug cartels in Mexico.